Well, good afternoon as we're sitting here at LTV on this beautiful Monday afternoon, early evening, I should say, April 14th, year 2025, here with the Hello Hello Show. And my name is Haim Mizrahi, continuing with the tradition of public access and of course, the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on the air since 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty, Francis, and then, of course, the likes of you out there and make it your business to enhance and fortify this wonderful concept called public access. Only God is my witness how many times I reiterated the importance and the relationship between that which allows us to speak our mind, but also with an injection of coherence and fairness and common sense to in direct relationship to the longevity of the kind of society that we favor and also the kind of country that we live in. So only God is my witness. I would say if 1,000, it probably would be 2,000. If I say 2,000, it would be 4,000 times shows that I have elaborated on the fact from all possible angles. But anyway, sitting here at LTV as I usually do, 7 days a week, accumulating shows that are nearing 7,000, and with the help of the late Fraser Dougherty, I would dare say we have about 15,000 shows altogether from since 1980, and that's a formidable amount, and that's a portrayal of a society, a portrayal of a community that that mirrors a society. Here you go, portrayal of a community that mirrors a society that makes itself not only available to the cause, but to the effect and the reason of the very existence of this concept called, freedom, liberty, freedom of speech, uh, and then of course just democracy, just choosing your course of action and having an abundance of possibilities and opportunities, and therefore you get the result as you get here in the United States of America. Uh, I don't care what anyone says, it's flourishing, it's blooming, it's promising, it's growing. And, sometimes when I see people paying so much attention to, I don't want to say politics or other, or religion or whatever it is, they're missing out so much on the concept that is available and that you cannot go wrong engaging in arts and in the creative process. You cannot you cannot mess things up by choosing the route of art and playing music. When I come together with myself and think of a composition, I realize that I don't even need to think of one because one always accompanies me, and it so happens that this particular one that always that accompanies me is never the same. Don't ask me. Don't ask me how and why. You can probably find out yourself, and then I will never approach you and try and ask you to explain to me what's going on, or how come everything is so good, or how come you always prevail, or how come there's always a celebration of breakthroughs and all that. Because it will be unfair on my behalf because it's not supposed to be possible for you, the achiever, to even describe it. But for the viewer, from the observer, now that's a different world. That's worlds that's being creating on moments' notice, and realities that being forming on moments' notice. And we are the individuals that operate it, this machine, as simple or as complex or as sophisticated as it is, or might be, or could be, or was, or it's just a mechanism that can never go wrong because it's connected to the head and the tail end of a pure source of energy and motion forward. Uh, to tell you about the nature of the celebration that I experience every day, and I really don't need to even title it with any words such as celebration or party or a special gathering with an upbeat look into the future and examining whatever. It'll be more like, hey, if you happen to be around, come check us out, and then you go in, and it's like, okay, um, there's art, there's good art, there's beautiful art, there's lots of art, there's a full body of work here. That's when you find yourself engaged in a scenario where you go to an art show or musical concert, and then when you realize that you are actually experiencing something that later you won't even remember anymore. It will be so powerful and so overwhelming in a positive way, and so weighing on your system that it anchors your system rather than crashing or devastating the system. And that's just I say it's a pure luck that forgot to leave, and it's here to stay. As soon and the first time as it happened, it never leaves you. It just never leaves you. So instead of calling it from afar to show up, you are calling it for the sake of waking it up, as if it is going through an almost a, um, infinite. No. What I say, yes, maybe infinite. Um, um, to get the point across, and in the same token as you trying to make a point, because you're capable to of making one, because you have a deposit of magic and rarity and exuberance, and just the uh, a sterilic um, promising, um, looking with great clarity and transparency through the ongoing present, with no aspirations as far as coming from the past and yearning or observing or looking to the future, even though this aspect's already embedded in the now, not because we think about now and not because we adapt the now in order to emphasize that this is where we anchor. It's because it dictates the nature of passing the passing object's journey. I mean, you can say passing human beings' journey. Um, so it's almost like learning from a certain simple concept like that you actually come to be and to create something else to be on the basis of activating something external while you're wheeling and dealing and creating in another domain, like if you say abstract, if you want to interpret and add freedom, and if you want to continue and add instinctivism, something like that. And if you want to add maybe a free will, if you want to add in the independence, maybe if you want to add individuality, you can add so much in order to describe that. But then you find out that you achieve the your desired engagement, i.e., coming together with the abstract in order to create abstract, will be achieved by entering the abstract zone with full ferocity and velocity of something that is very intimate and very personal of ours, that we don't necessarily want to make it public knowledge, or we don't want to give people of the world details. We just want to create, and we want to count on you that you'll be able to decipher, i.e., also to find out what the ingredients are, how things were done. Just like the other day when I went to check out one of the good art shows, quiet ones, that had should have an impact here in East Hampton. I think it was the drawing room or the drawing, whatever the name is. Yeah. the drawing room on Main Street, East Hampton, and I think there was like a Iraqi uh, um, Iraqi origin artist that actually ended up in New York, and all this. So they're showing the work. He passed away a while ago, and it was something very intriguing there. I was there with my daughter, and she's 10 years old, and I told her, "Look, I had to inform her. I didn't want to ask her. I didn't want to make her uh, go through a situation where she needs to work too hard and unnecessarily. It's like, so I would tell her, I would say, you can do that. No, I mean, and then I went directly into explaining to her what I think the artist did. Oh, you see, he created that shadow. He left the edges. The edge is obviously different color. The shadow is more creative because it has lots of layers of colors and shade and black and white and you name it, and composition that is very characteristic of that. And then he enclosed the area from the closest inner line of the enclosement of the shape itself, of the enclosement of the shape itself, working inwards with just a marker, and then you go around and you kind of imitate the outer shell, and the outer shell is really uh, uh, the last resort. But you, fortunately for you, you're working yourself in towards the center. So another layer by reshaping the given second space that you created within the major first space, even though the edges are important, you can relate to it later. So she's 10 years old and she would be very perceptive. No adult can be so perceptive. And it's not because he or she, as your kids, are just the best gift that this world has ever seen. No, they're just being kids. They're clear minded, and if they have just a little bit of if fortune where they would now and then feel the urge to try and decipher the reality whether she should or shouldn't engage in art, and understand it as a super important thing and a super powerful aspect that can teach people about so many things other than just what you're actually witnessing. You adapt it, you implement it by the power of your aspiration that comes from awareness that you just learned something, you just discovered something. And because you're a great technician, you bring the two together and then you create. You write, you play music, you write, you paint, you write, you paint, you write, you paint, you play music. You know, solid, solid. Now, why do I say solid? Because the end result is is the power that you will manifest that will call the world to come into your own world, into your immediate vicinity. And they will be, maybe even if it's just a slight bit dumbfounded, it would be enough to be considered as pretty almightily intense. And so then continued to share with my daughter and told her, here's the canvas, here's the first enclosure, which is just marking, and she understands me. And it's like I told her without telling her, follow me, and I asked you, and then immediately, without waiting for an answer, I'm actually showing you and asking you again, like wondering together with you, and you nod, and you say, oh, yeah, and then went into the second layer, the second enclosure, getting near the center more and more. And in every stage that you're actually yearning towards the center, you do it by way of shadows and light, but the shapes that are formed will inhabit within them your styles, your ability, your technique of expression. And then when I was done, I said, "You see, it's really doable. It's something you can do." And then she turned to me and she said, "You know what? I didn't think about it. About that before you." It's like she tells you, "I didn't think I can think about that. I didn't think that it exists. That at all I need to look for it in order to know that it's there and therefore use it or take advantage of it, whatever." There's no awareness of that, until there is full awareness, and that is been achieved with just a little story or a little sharing things that, and then walking through the other paintings of that particular painter, you teach your kids to respect and admire those who do very well in their with when dealing with their desire and aspiration to create, and therefore maybe make your life richer and happier, and maybe and more beautiful. um, so now you're getting into the thick of it, because if you achieved if you are found yourself together and in sync with the person that you're actually communicating with, by way of suggestion, uh, showing the way, guiding, contemplating, wondering, um, and then of course, as the discussions supposedly going back and forth and back, the world is just as much as it admires so passionately violence and aggression, and it does. I mean, there's no way that the world is so soaked with the desire to be annihilated and reconstructed over and over again, which is a ridiculous thing. Maybe it is a replica of the human mind. So when we go to a therapist and say, oh, this and that and this, but whether you say it like that, or whether you say it with a smile, or laughing or crying or whatever, it's all there. Now the world maybe needs the same help that a human being needs when they contemplate and reflect, and they realize, yeah, maybe I should seek professional listening device in the and sharing device in the shape of a therapist that I can just whatever. But the attempt of by human beings and with human beings in order to remind the world of that scenario and what the options are, it's already in such full motion forward that the distractive aspect of it is irreconcilable. I don't know if it's a word. You cannot reconcile with it. It's done. It's like starting a nuclear war, and that you can just not stop it. It's just like wapapam, get ready to eat all the crap now. This is the way it is. In the same token, there's certain things in the appearing in the artistic journey where there's just like certain things, they come and they go, or they're just about to happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. And well, in artistic journey, it's not as terrifying and as obsolete as a nuclear war, but a nuclear war is also will start like, you know and remember that whoever put all these scenarios together, and forget about creating the bombs or whatever it is, actually had a course of action, and a course of action that it lacks from it suffers from a lack of um, the designed for the system to be upgraded accordingly, not constantly, accordingly. And even though the changes will be minute, but on the basis of what modernism and how modernism and industrialism dictates, and then we are actually saying to ourselves, you know, but it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, if you say that a nuclear war is going to erupt, and in 10 minutes or 20 minutes there's going to be hell on earth, and now you say, well, maybe I can prolong it. I can make sure that it will give us an hour, okay? And that will be what? Is that going to be like a reason for us to say, wow, thank you? Another 15 minutes. No, it's like, what is it going to communicate with us? So anyway, the same way you call the world and you offer the world therapy, like an entity, like a working human being. I don't, I never did therapy. I mean, I attempted twice. It was a few sessions. And one session was with a therapist from John Sarno, the, the father of the discovery of TMS, tension myositis syndrome. And then when I went through reading his books and meeting him and doing some workshops with him in groups, whatever, and really prevailing in reading of some things that I thought I'm going to live through my entire lifetime. So in he he was originally a Freudian, and all of the group of therapists that were working with him were pure Freud, pure straightforward Freud, maybe with a touch of Jung. So he took them and he taught them vis-a-vis his thesis how to uh, transform the Freudian aspect of it into the concept of TMS, tension myositis syndrome, and still benefit from it. But the main thing that he had to change for that thing to be able to take place is to say, um, um, we don't cure, we give the facts. We look for the facts, we find them, and then we give you the facts. So that means um, knowledge is the cure. And imagine that. Imagine that. If you can go to a therapist, that the therapist will eventually tell you, and he will continue to tell you, that his aim is to convince you, for lack of a better word, I say convince you to understand it at face value and to really understand it the way that he wants to teach you, to show you in the kind of technique that we use, so he can give it to you in a very logical, very coherent, very straightforward, down to earth way, and say, um, in that you, as the other person is anticipating that you would be, uh, will most probably prevail. But even if not, that's not a problem. But most probably will prevail, and that would be that you say, knowledge is the cure, but we're still going to leave the sofa around of Freud, even though we're kind of trying to push him away, and re-entering Freud, allowing Freud to re-enter through the back door this time. So now the sofa is only because we all agree that it's kind of nice to be able to go to get help from someone who can just take from you and maybe rationalize for you while you're sitting on a kind of pretty comfortable, solid sofa. And you're like, okay. So that in itself is what TMS therapy allows you to do, to say, of course, knock yourself out, chill, no problems. But um this sofa doesn't have a title, doesn't have a name, doesn't have an origin, nothing. It's just there. And I remember actually one of my shows at Ashwa Hall years ago. I mean, this is, you're talking about maybe 20 years ago. And it was a show where I I brought much of what I had in my studio, like a little sofa and a rocking chair, whatever it is that I had, canvases on the floor. I created a mini replica of my studio at Ashwa Hall. And I said, and while I was at it, I threw a sofa there, and like a four people sofa, like big one. And it so happens, and I had an easel and whatever. It was pathetic. It was cliche. It was almost borderline ridiculous, but it was so effective. It so happens that Mary Libertor, the one who owned the legendary gallery in Bridgehampton, Mary Libertor, the Libertor, and she was then maybe 90, mid 90s, and she knew me enough to want to come to my art show. And then when she came and she saw the sofa, because she was, a limited individual, she couldn't really walk as a young person anymore. She had a cane or something like that. So her visits to art openings and galleries would be maximum 5-10 minutes. Then she saw the sofa, and she just went and she walked around for 5 minutes, and she sat at the sofa and she stayed until the end of the exhibition. And she bothered to tell me, I never stayed. But this is so here you go. You have in the heart of an art opening a sofa that you're allowed to sit on. And then you might end up sitting in it and not wanting to get up even throughout the whole reception. Anyway, the concept is you invite the world into the young result of your hard labor, artistic labor. You invite the world, and in addition to that, you show the world the way. So there will be no excuse, and it will inform the world that it won't cost them anything. It's all free. It's all free. It's all open. It's all, and if you need an extra in communication, blending, interaction, you will get it instantly. Um, Seconds are highly recommended. So anyway, so in that sense, saying, so what is the relationship? Again, I use the word relationship between this semi-summary of your artistic effort and prevailing. The whole idea of success, of enough breakthroughs that you can have something to work with, and you look pretty encouraged. So it's not something you wake up in the morning and suddenly not going to do it. You have enough energy, enough inspiration, and enough of so many other things that keeps you going. You know that the next 4 weeks are guaranteed that you're going to be afloat and actually reasonably happy. How do you bring the world along to join you in a trip where you feel pathetic, maybe sometimes limited, frustrated, and happy? Yes, and yes, and self-confidence, all this, and happiness? Yes, of course, that's because that's who you are. But the world is weighing on you, and it's like, and that's like, you come from accepting the limitations, that they are so deep and so meaningful, that it's really leaving not much room for a promising, I would say, the continuation of the present. I won't say the promising future, just the continuation of the present. Now that takes not only art, skills, and that not only takes the obvious technical effort that is there and what it requires, but it takes courage to be the observer as much as to be the artist, as much as to be the artist, as much as to be the spectator. It takes simple courage, and it takes simply courage. Courage simply. And from that cliché-ness, so to speak, there is an opening for going through some kind of liberation. And because the liberation will spell the breakthrough and create the ability to communicate with the world, and the world will say, of course, of course, of course. I mean, you know, the only thing I can envision is like a great, great, miraculous chef that you have at your disposal, and you pick up an individual, whatever that individual, whatever is on his or her mind, but intensity, complexity, maybe whatever, many other things. And I'll say, go cook for him. Go cook a 3-course dinner for him. I mean, go cook for him. And that chef will cook dinner that is going to be so absolutely delicious, like so absolutely delicious, that it will prevent anybody in the world from proceeding in their whatever. I mean, to go to where their destination was just a second ago, leading them to. They will all stop. They will all enjoy. They will all appreciate. They will all say, "What? That's heavenly!" The word heavenly. Just bring them good food and good wine or good juice or good dessert, and out of this world ice cream and some espresso, whatever things that people cannot refuse to, cannot dismiss as terrible, disgusting, revolting, and you know what I mean. it won't be that, to introduce the war the world with the cuisine options, like what's for dinner, unlimited request, unlimited uh, uh, compatibility with any request in the world will be met. The world, I guess, needs to uh, relieve itself and refine its crooked, unpredictable demeanor of of the replica of a character, and maybe eventually, after all, at some point, your effort as a creative individual and as one who shows signs that we're just starting. It doesn't matter, even a second before the end, you will hear we're just starting. It's just the beginning. And that's called for because eventually, yes, the art or the result of your artistic journey or attempt will make a difference, will make change, but it will also be stored for the immediate continuation of the present to give us a, uh, a guideline. And of course, for me, it's more like a point of reference. Remember that. Remember, as I did like 25 years ago, they were like early stages of my painting journey, and it would be like you create something. I remember I had this habit. I had a girlfriend in Manhattan. That was like mid 90s, so I would like 2 3 times a week travel to New York and just and see my girlfriend and like work until 5 drive to New York, get there at like 7:30, and then you meet your girlfriend, someone you love, you like, you feel good. Just Manhattan, the enormity, the scale, the beauty, the feeling of exuberance, and then a good meal, dinner in Manhattan, and you're having dinner in disproportion to how much money you have in your pocket, but you pay for it and you're there and you enjoy it, and it's just simply awesome. And then you have more fun until, and then 2 o'clock in the morning you drive back to East Hampton because you have to be up at more 7 o'clock to go to work, and you get to East Hampton at 4 o'clock. And for me, I would come at 4 o'clock and I say, "Oh my God, I got 3 hours to sleep," and then I will grab a canvas, put a drop cloth, get the brushes, get the thing, and create something not crazily, not freestyle like, not abstractism like, not, even though it includes all of that, but not in any fashion there will be I was inspired in this way or that way. You just do it. It's based also in, as much as it is improvisational, it's still based on knowledge and disciplines and order. And I would do it, the next morning I would be like, wow, wow. But then I realized that I cannot remember all the details, the vital details, because why should I why should I go back and continue to paint and to do this and toil all over again trying to figure out what took place, technically speaking. And then I learned an important lesson. I learned to activate my photographic memory. Activate, overemphasize. I had a photographic memory. I have, not great, but I have some kind of photographic memory, and I utilized it. And every time now, since I was uh, created that new awareness, and I used to do like 2 3 times a week going to Manhattan. That's spelled 2 3 paintings a week. That's were only the direct result of this act, actually, besides what I would usually on daily basis create in my studio. Now, why am I telling you all this? It's because the spur of the moment, actually carries more substance than the long, deep thought process that led you to create what this and that. Has more content, more control, more power than as if otherwise you were to think and plan it for weeks on end, as opposed to coming and it's there and you do and your body agrees with your thought agrees with your motion of your body's motion, blending and impacting the technique, meeting it as if it's just like meant to be this way. And then when the actual application on the surface takes place, then you are just a friggin' angel like eternal undestructible individual that creates meaning. So I adapted that, and I never shared that with anyone, like, because people ask the viable question, where where is all this coming from? How do you do, like, it's not like I would say, okay, I'm not gonna answer you, because then I'll have to give you the information of how I go about things, and maybe that's something that I don't like to do, which I changed, of course. After a while, I looked at myself and said, "Really, really? Did I just hear what I heard that you were saying? Snap out of it, share, because you want to give them a chance. So what? No, man. No. That's not. It wasn't because I was. I said, no. I don't want him to succeed. I don't want him to use something that I had to work so hard on, and then to just go and grab it from me and do it. But yes. Not no. Yes. I detached myself, turned around, and faced myself and said, "Really? No, that's not the case. The case is that you just like find a plan, make like a summary so you can introduce it to people, and that will serve as a crash course. Okay, how about that? Just kind of crash course. They will take or get or reveal or experience whatever it is that they're going to. But you did your job, okay, which I did, and I always do now. And sometimes when I start a conversation with someone, when I had in the back of my mind, I want to have something to tell him, but I'm not going to, not to just approach him and say, listen, I got something to share with you. And it's about what I think that I can contribute to you, technically speaking, as you carry on with your attempt and your desire and your journey as an artist. Very few people will turn to me and say, oh, I would love to hear it. People maybe interpret it in their own way that will just not really think that it's cool what you just said, and stop trying to preach me kind of thing and all this. But I found a way to come as an aiding friend that doesn't show um, any of it in an obvious way that this is what you are up to. You just do it, and people will encounter you 3 4 days later and you say, by the way, our conversation, you won't believe it, I went back to the studio and I actually realized what you were saying, and I adapted it, and then they have a follow-up question. And then when people in this situation has the follow-up questions, that means the world has just made a very crucial step forward. The entire world. And just imagine the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of incidents like this that are taking place. That means the attention of the world is at your disposal thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times every day. And if anybody wants to check the list and zoom in, probably the first thing they'll see is your name right there on the top. Your name right there on the top. And if you bring it out from within and you want to open and say, okay, you know what, I wrote a poem, I know that you were in poetry and this and that, how about you? But you don't realize while you're trying to get that out and show that piece of paper or the poem, and offer it, or or donate it for the moment, and uh, with all the anticipation is the anticipation that maybe something for the sake of the poem itself, not for the sake of who wrote it, the sake of the poem itself will speak in the heart of the one that shows interest to say, wait a second, this is tricky. It's like, I better take an image of it. Take out your cell phone, take a picture of it, deal with it later. That's what I would do. Even though I know that I can read it really fast and give it that appreciation of the style. Just like my Tai Chi teacher told me, never come to me and tell me you don't have time to practice. Here, let me show you how you can practice all the 20/60 steps in a matter of 2 minutes. And I said, wow, my master is compromising himself in order to volunteer his knowledge, but in such a way that he won't have to volunteer it more than once, because he wants to make sure that it's like a stamp on the breath of your breathing. Now, when you realize something like that, you cannot realize and and fathom the uh, uh, the nature of the story, uh, and 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 you like the way that it hits you, and then now you're busy with the style of that incident. Incident took place. Now you're actually more focused on what is the nature of the incident. Almost like a composition, like a structure. What is the nature of this structure that was thrown into the center of the stage? And it was a moment that just, this is the portrayal of that moment. um, and 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 that defines the openness by way of vulnerability that the world you can find, if you were to look, has, that you can infiltrate its supposed, whatever you want to call that, layer that wants to keep you out, but still uh, keep you happy in the same token. So um, there you make your people so satisfied that obedience is actually becomes second nature. But that obedience obviously is very tricky, because you can end up with that in the hands of blind faith, and getting to a point where you're saying, how did I get here? And I can't believe that was me who did all these things. And what is my next stage? And how can I make more sense of what just happened? Anyway, lots of things like that. But if you are in the process with the kind of engagement that you subtracted from the, from a chunk that spells 2 minutes or 3 minutes of execution, like you deliver composition, from note A to final note, and you're doing it with happiness and comfort and relaxation, but always power as a guiding, uh, um, as a guiding line, as a again, a secondary point of reference that's more important than the basic one that actually lays in the in in the uh, bed of comfort that's by now became inseparable from the foundation. And when the foundation, it's the same thing. When it's dry, it's dry. Now, no one says that you cannot take it apart, but as soon as you start trying to take it apart, you realize this is not for the faint-hearted. This is hard work. Now, the other question is, do I want to work that hard? Not even then it's guaranteed that the end result will give me a fresh ground so I can reduplicate that structure that we're dismantling now. Because suddenly you realize, maybe in the face of my extreme conviction, maybe I don't have what it takes. That's okay. You get with these honest moments with yourself, you can only gain from it, because then there's a back and forth, wheeling and dealing, reasoning, you yourself in you, and you with and others in you, in any scenario. So like my Tai Chi teacher told me, I am compromising my, in an indirect fashion, my philosophical integrity in order to make it easier for you to understand, but understand in such a way that you will actually act upon it immediately. So you will find yourself, we will both be finding yourself actually implementing it really faster than you ever thought you will. And that's a good thing, because we know the style and the nature of your energy and force, and we know that if it is in that mode and it's actually without no intention of stopping or pausing or taking back, there's no room for that now, then we know that it's every step you will find that you're actually prevailing, and you're prevailing, and you're prevailing, and you're even more so prevailing, and a little more prevailing, and then another layer of prevailing, and prevailing, and prevailing, and prevailing, and prevailing. Now, so we need more chefs that willing to work for free so they can feed the world. Go to this angry individual, cook a nice gourmet French dinner for him. I have no doubt he's going to change his tune after that, and tell him it's on the house, and send him home with an even better $1,000 bottle of wine, for free. Uplift the mood of people, let's have more chefs. But in addition to that, let's have a coherent approach to what it really means to create art, and what is the best way to go about it, and how easy or difficult it is, and that it's one and the same anyway, and giving the tools through which you can really decipher the importance and the uh, purpose of that which you're hoping to gain, obviously, but also the engagement itself, that in itself is precious, and it's a good place to be. You again, very important that you can guarantee yourself certain times by a technique in an engagement, that you cannot not be out of the how do I want to say it, up for no good. Yeah, it won't. That's not the scenario. You know what I mean? Now, if you have that many billions of people on planet Earth, and then that many millions of them are actually engaged in that kind of awareness, and they keep on refining it and refining it, like AI today, so few people don't understand that AI is all about the indulge me by refining my material, and this is the secret. And so AI must go outside of itself and give you the answer that won't have the AI characteristics embedded within it, and therefore inevitably will be portrayed through your work. And all you wanted is just lend me your capability, but not for me to use that to be interpreted as more ability to be more zealous, more durable, more all of that, but rather to allow you to do your thing. Only so when I can, when I show up, or when and I bump into you, kind of thing, it will be compatible with instant um, trigger. Uh, and and then you can go into that clichéness of the show must go on and all this. Of course, it must go on because it is going on. That's the thing. It is going on. The thing that you wish for and to prevail and yearn and anticipate and hope for, you know deep inside you, you know that it's already there. You know that it's already there. And maybe because you have found yourself already in the thick of it, and you're like dumbfounded, surprised, amazed, humbled. And so naturally you wanted to go longer. You want it to you want it to um, last longer. That's that's a good thing. So all these millions that we make it be their business to think, and we want to be cliche outside the box. Even though I hate this slogan of outside the box with passion, but still I use it. Why? Because it's just a way of telling you what I'm thinking. So let's go, think outside the box and think in implement and actualize and whatever other word, this new thing that will use it, but so abruptly do away with it. It will be incinerated so quickly, but not before it will serve its purpose by aiding us to be served as a unique jumping board. That was just a little touch, but so significant. So significant. So think about the millions out of the billions that are making it every day their business, knowingly, unknowingly, directly, indirectly, and so much more. But it's there, and it's like the background, and the background now and then becomes the forefront, and you're like flashy, like wow, and this is it. This is real. This is not just like, oh, I think, or I wonder, or was I? How was this? Wasn't I this? It's not that. It's like because it's in the midst of your natural awareness that is on an ongoing fashion, and it's a part of something that's actually also substantial in its own right, and another realm or level that's also substantial in its own right, and they all must live in harmony, at least within you. Otherwise, how can you ask for the world? How could they inform the world that it needs your help? It needs your help. It needs your help. It better need your help because you have what it needs, and you're willing to give it for free. But that's not what we want. We don't want to be paid for it. We don't put a price on it. We just give it away. But before we can give it away, oh boy, how much work? There is a lot of work. And these preparations, the good news, they guarantee you that when you start in that kind of mode of preparations, they will allow you to be a hands-on individual on that vessel called preparation. I don't know even how to begin to tell you how fortunate you are if you find yourself in this scenario. As I'm putting my glasses and examining the screen, and we have about 5 more minutes. So what is that to say? That's to say that these millions, they grow by the minute, and the impact as and obviously the nature of the infrastructure is speaking its piece also. The stage that speaks in volume and in essence and in technique of its own behalf also, and the merging of the two. And then the rocking feet of the thinking minds that carry their bodies as they dance and hop over the stage, that within the format of its spiritual guarantee. Now that's a wonderful scenario. And we're just getting started. This height, this intensity, this formidability is at their very early stages, but it still nevertheless disproportionately formidable. And I wanted to think, because I have, like, for example, and this is actually want to take all these 53 minutes that I was on the air and think of a title that I'm going to be using for a group show that's coming in 2 weeks here at LTV. And I promised myself I'm going to do it. So it is the large scale, frameless, that will be free floating with tacking on the wall, extremely over the top colorful, that will rush into the I almost want to say green zone, but uh, definitely the word rush is going to be a part of the title. Uh, Help me out here. So it's going to be. Yeah, maybe Phil, Fill. So it's either Rush Phil or Phil Art. Phil Rush. Phil Rush. Flea Rush. No. Feel. Fill. Flee. Uh, put a rush on it. What do you think? That's going to be the title of the show. Put a rush on it. So let me remind you that we're sitting here on Monday afternoon, early evening, April 14th, year 2025, here with the Hello Show. My name is Haim Mizrahi, continuing with the tradition of public access and, of course, the tradition of this wonderful show, the Hello Show, that's been on the air since 1980. And then, of course, we have a wonderful Fraser Dougherty, the founder, and his wife, late wife, Francis Ann, has a wonderful background into the heroic effort on their behalf to bring this place to life, and of course, a huge group of other people that carried in the burden of um, erecting this wonderful concept called public access. We have an ongoing show as we've been having group shows here for 28 years, and I had the privilege to, I guess, to curate about 26 of them, 26 years. The existing show is the black and white show that we have here. It's called Let Alone, and it's Bob Sullivan, Josephine Worcestershire, Jody Gambino, Fanny Ulin, Chris LaCour, and myself, your humble servant. And we're getting ready for an explosive show that's called Put a Rush on It. It's going to come up sometime in the first week of May. And of course, you will get to know all the information. We'd always love to have you here. And wanted to thank you also for allowing me to feel free to and constructive with just letting it all out, sharing with you with love and regard, and best wishes for you and for a great summer to come. And let's enjoy, and if anywhere in the world to enjoy, it's at the east end of Long Island. God bless, and we'll see you soon.